What's going on, everyone? Thanks for checking out this video. Today I'm going to tell you everything I can about the Road Warrior all-wheel drive XT from Fabulous e-bikes, and thank you to Fabulous for giving me a chance to ride and test this bike and share my ride experience with all of you here on YouTube. So today I'll walk you through all the components on the bike, talk about my ride experience as we go, show you some performance footage, and in the end, hopefully you'll have a better idea if the Road Warrior is what you're looking for. Let's check it out. All right, first things first, the current retail price of this bike is $2,899 US, and it comes in multiple versions. This is the 60 volt dual 750 motor version. They also make a 48 volt dual 500 watt version, and I believe also a single motor version. It might be a 1,000 watt motor on that. So you can get it in various different configurations, and it comes in various colors as well. This is the dark metallic blue. You can also get crimson red and silver bullet. Now, another thing I want to mention right here at the start is this is a USA version of the Road Warrior. And there's a couple differences between the USA model and the Canadian model. I'll run you through the differences real fast. On the USA model, you've got a wire here that connects the fender to the fork, making it a little bit more stable. Shimano hydraulic brakes on the USA version. The Canada, I believe, has Zoom hydraulic brakes. And there's a little asterisk there because if you get the red, the crimson red USA version, they actually give you the Zoom brakes because the Zoom brakes are red. So they color match them to the bike. So if you get blue or silver, you're gonna get the black Shimano ones like this. If you get the crimson red, you're gonna get red Zoom brakes on it. So those are the first two differences, the wire on the fender and the brakes. The next is the handlebar stem, this adjustable stem. Canada gets Zoom, USA gets a Pro Max. I believe the USA gets a slightly larger battery. This is a 60 volt, 24 amp hour, and I think Canada is a 60 volt, 23.4 amp hour. So just a touch more. I don't know why that is, but a touch larger for USA. USA also gets slightly faster motors. I believe the Canadian Road Warrior is gonna top out around 31 miles an hour. And this bike, if you saw my last video, I've had this thing to 40 miles an hour on just the throttle. These motors are very fast. And the last couple differences are, I believe the tires are different. The US gets the Kenda Crusade with the reflective stripe. I'm not sure what comes on the Canadian version. And then the USA version has a torque sensor, and the Canada one is still a cadence sensor. And if you want to find this specific version of this bike you're looking at right now, you're gonna have to go to the Fabulous USA website, which is just fab-usa.com. So you've got a few differences between the USA and the Canada versions, but gonna be largely the same bike. Now I'll start taking a walk through this thing, and I'll try my best to tell you as much as I can about the ride experience as we go. 4-inch fat tires, 26x4 fat tires. These are Kenda Crusades. I do like the Crusade because they have an aggressive looking tread pattern, but they're still relatively quiet on the road. The wheels have these punch outs in them, or these suspension holes, where I guess it's supposed to give it a little bit more squish on the fat tire. I don't really notice much of a difference. I just think it looks cool when they have that. It really dresses up the bike. I think makes it look a little bit flashier. You've got a motor in your front wheel. So 750 watt geared hub motor in the front wheel here. No quick release on this. This is, bolted in there. You got to get out your wrenches if you want to take the front wheel off. So if you're a person that wants to quick release the front wheel, you're not going to do it on an all-wheel drive bike. And if we zip over to this side to see, we've got hydraulic disc brakes, 180 millimeter, and these are Shimano disc brakes. Awesome braking power. I had no problem with the brakes. They were smooth, they were quiet, plenty of power. Great braking system on this bike. For the front suspension fork, you got an RST guide. Nice smooth fork, I'm happy with that. They use it a lot on all-wheel drive bikes, and I don't know if it's because this front dropout looks a little bit beefier and thicker than normal, and maybe that does a good job of holding that front motor in place, and that's why they use it. But no problem with the motor coming out or doing anything bad. So good front fork on there. Comes with a nice bright headlight, and you've also got this USB pigtail that hangs off of the headlight, which is kind of like an extra one because there's one on the display screen as well. So you've got two extra USB ports on this bike if you need it. Comes with rack and fenders included. They're metal fenders, which I'm okay with. I mean, usually the metal fenders look a little bit higher end, but I find them to be louder. When you're kicking up stones into them, or even when you kick up the kickstand, it kind of rings through the fenders a little bit. I had a little trouble on this one getting it quiet on the back because you can see this wire that connects the fender was right on the rear rack. So I just zip tied it right to the rear rack to keep it immobilized and keep the buzzing noise down. I eventually got it where it wasn't touching anything and it was secured, and then it was quiet. If you have buzzing noise coming through the fender. You just have to find out where it's touching on the rack somewhere and solve that. I like it when they include rack and fenders because I think everybody's gonna want to put those on anyway. The paint job's nice on this bike. This is the metallic blue. It's like a dark navy blue, a little bit of metallic in there, gloss paint. Really nice looking paint job. I like the fabulous graphics and logos too. Those are cool looking with like the drag in there. This one on here is just a sticker. You could peel that off the battery if you wanted. These ones are baked into the paint. You're not peeling those off. And it says adrenalized down here, Road Warrior, all-wheel drive, 60 volt up here. It's a good looking paint job on this bike. All right, now let's jump to some specs that you're probably the most interested in. It's an all-wheel drive bike, a 60 volt battery there with dual 750 watt motors, and they're selectable. So you can be in rear wheel drive or all-wheel drive. There's no front wheel drive. And it's all done with this one button right here. So when you push this button, you get your front motor, and when you release it, it's just in rear wheel drive. You just kind of have to look and see if the button is in or out. That's the only way to tell. There's no indicator on the screen. Nothing lights up. I kind of wish they would add something there that makes it just a touch easier to tell when you're in all-wheel drive and when you're not. If this button would light up, or something on the display to show you all-wheel drive, that would be cool. But not that big of a deal on this bike because it wasn't outrageously crazy with the front wheel spin. And this battery pack is massive. I mean, 60 volt, 24 amp hour, that's a pretty huge battery pack. And of course you can charge this thing on the bike or off the bike. However, taking it off the bike is a little bit of a process. It's not the easiest that I've ever had on an e-bike. You gotta first unplug it. The battery has a pigtail. Let me walk around this side and show you. The battery's got a pigtail on this side where you actually have to plug it into the bike. And this hangs off the battery pack. So to take this out, you gotta unplug the plug, the XT90 connector there. Then you gotta undo the Velcro strap. And then you put the key into the frame and release the battery. And then you can kind of wiggle the battery out of the triangle frame. So it's not the quickest or easiest method of battery removal I've ever seen, but for someone like me who doesn't really take the batteries in and out a whole lot, it's not a huge deal. If you're going to be removing your battery every single day or maybe multiple times a day, you might get a little annoyed with that process. But it does seat down in the frame and it locks in the frame, and it's also got the Velcro around it, and it's really secure. You don't hear it rattling or moving around or anything like that. And the casing feels pretty robust too. It's in a metal box, a metal case that's like riveted closed. So I feel like if you ever did drop this or something off road and that thing hit a log or a rock or something, I feel like I could take a decent hit and still be pretty protected. And I have not done a range test on this bike, but I will do that for you because I know you're gonna wanna know how fast does dual motors eat through that big battery. So I will circle back with a range test on this bike. And next thing to talk about is the controller hiding here right behind the battery pack. And this bike is powered by a single, that's one controller. I did open this up and look inside. There is one controller in there, and it is a 17 amp controller, which is smaller than you normally get on an e-bike. Most of them have like 22, maybe even 25 sometimes, but it does have adequate power in all-wheel drive. In single wheel drive, this bike is very, very tame. It's slow off the start, it's very gradual, but you put in all-wheel drive, it changes it completely. It's like a Jekyll and Hyde. Once you switch to all-wheel drive, you get a lot of power off the line, and you get a lot of hill climb power out of it. And if you are looking for speed, power, acceleration, then you're gonna wanna be in the all-wheel drive mode. If you're looking to just chill and take a nice, easy ride, flat level ground, 10, 15 miles an hour, then rear-wheel drive is gonna be your best friend on this bike. It is a pretty big bike. 26x4 fat tires, typically they go from the ground up to the top of the tires, usually like 29 inches. The minimum seat height, you can see you got a suspension seat post that comes with this bike. So the minimum seat height that you're looking at right here is 36 3/4 inches. That's pretty tall. For me, no problem. I got long legs, I'm 6 feet tall. Ride position on this bike is super comfortable. If I want to pedal, I actually raise the seat up even higher. For my wife, she could not even get on this bike with the seat, with the suspension seat post in there. I had to remove that, and then she was able to get on and ride and pedal and handle the bike. I don't think she could still couldn't get her feet flat on the ground, but she could at least get on this bike and ride at 5'3". So something to keep in mind if you're considering this bike. Take in mind, your height. Can you get your feet on the ground? What feels comfortable to you? I think really bikes like this are made 5'7" and above. I'm not saying you can't ride it if you're shorter, but saying if you want your feet flat on the ground, you're gonna have to be a fairly tall individual to do it on this bike with the suspension seat post in there. The standover height is about I mean, so right here it's like 31, 32 inches to stand over this bike. And it is heavy too. This bike weighs 92 pounds. It is over 90 pounds. So if you're gonna be lifting it or hauling it or transporting it, you know, make sure you can lift 92 pounds. You don't really feel the weight when you're riding it. You feel it when you're trying to lift this bike. Then you realize just how heavy this thing really is. The adjustable handlebar stand was pretty cool too. You just release this lever and you can position these handlebars however you want. You can have them way far forward and flat. You can have them up super tall. I kept them up nice and tall. I like really tall handlebars. And when you put them all the way up to the max, they're about 4 feet off the ground. It's about 48 inches to the top of the grip. I think it's really great because you can stand up and ride on it. You don't have to bend over as you're doing stand-up riding. I ride like that a lot. I don't know why. It's just really comfortable. I just get a nice clear overhead view of everything standing up riding, and this bike is super comfortable for that. And the adjustment is, if you got multiple people that are riding this bike, they can quick adjust things. I like that. Now for the gearing on the Road Warrior, it's an 8-speed bike. And up front, you got a 48 tooth front chainring. It's got a single side guard on there. On the back is an 1132. That's your gearing, 1132. So what does that mean? That means you can pedal this bike up to about 30 miles an hour. At 30 miles an hour, I could still pedal comfortably, input in the pedals. Once you hit about 35, then you just run out of pedal feeling and you're ghost pedaling. Very easy to go 35. It's pretty easy to go like 39 on this bike. So at that super high-end speed, you're gonna be pedaling like a maniac, but up until about 30 miles an hour, you got plenty of pedal feeling. I'm not sure if you could change out this front chainring. You're pretty close to the frame right here. I don't know that you could really go much bigger than what's on there at 48. Maybe you squeeze a 52 on there. I doubt it though. I think you probably got to stick with this gearing. Give you some close-ups here of the rear rack. Just bolts on right here. Same two on the other side, and then one right here. And you have to install that when you get the bike. You have to, on setup, you install the rear rack and the front wheel and the fenders. The front wheel is not scary. I mean, you just flip the bike upside down and drop the motor down in the dropouts. Make sure you get the little torque washers with the tab on them. Make sure those are in the dropouts. That's what holds this motor in place. It's not bad at all. And then you just plug it in and they supply you with a bunch of zip ties to secure the motor wire right here. And the setup's pretty easy, just like every other e-bike really. Put on the front wheel, put on the fender and the rack, spin on the pedals, and pretty much done at that point. And actually, the handlebars, you gotta drop these down in too, but nothing tricky there really. They give you a nice soft seat, really thick, plush, soft seat. Got some springs in the back there, and it comes with a suspension seat post. So you got some rear suspension. It does an okay job. It's not a full suspension bike, but the post is nice. All right, let's check out what's going on in the handlebars up here. So it has a twist throttle. Yes, as it should. Twist throttle. You've got rapid fire trigger shifters for your 8-speed right here. No problem, you know, working both with one hand. I didn't really have any issue with that at all. Shimano hydraulic brakes, feel nice. Display screen, let's turn things on here. So you push the center button, screen comes on. It's a full color display. Of course, battery life, outside ambient temperature, your speed in there, nice and big, pedal assist. It even has a watt meter on it, so you can see how many watts are being output as you ride. I like that. It's kind of fun to see that sometimes. I've seen it go as high as about 1900 watts. And I will show you what the programming looks like. Let's turn it back off because I think you got to do it like this. Turn it on, and then within 5 seconds you hit the up and down, and it'll take you into the programming, which is really easy to set. You just toggle through all these settings and hit the mode button and it'll take you in. I think the only thing I changed was right here, the first thing, speed limit. I bumped it up to 72 kilometers an hour, and everything else I just left the same. But that's what the settings look like on it. It's very easy to navigate through here. I like this setup. I've seen this before. So let's jump back out of there. And like I said, this is your all-wheel drive button right here. This turns the front motor off and on. So you're in rear wheel drive till you hit that button, and then you are in all-wheel drive. No front wheel drive. And I do want to show you one other thing that's really cool. One of my favorite little features of this bike. Let's turn hold the up button for a while. It turns the headlight on. So we got headlight, yeah, we got headlight. But the coolest thing is the tail lights. You've got dual tail lights. Hopefully it comes through and you can see it on camera. They're right here at the back of the frame. Just these little clear buttons. You don't even notice them really. So there's no other like big red tail light hanging off the back. They're right here at the back of the frame. There's one on each side. They're super bright, even in the daytime. You can see them really well. And then, so this is with tail light feature. And then when you pull the brake, see if I can get it on camera here. So if you pull the brake, it'll flash. It strobes. It's really eye-catching as it strobes. That's really cool. I've never seen these on any other bike. That's I had them on the EMX Extreme bike. That's Fabulous sent as well. Really cool. Strobing brake lights. So Fabulous does have some unique things they do with their bikes. They typically have some pretty large battery packs, the strobing tail lights. They make multiple all-wheel drive bikes, the quick adjust handlebar stems. These are things you don't really see on a whole lot of other 750 watt style fat tire e-bikes. All right, now I know you want to see this bike in action, so let me show you some clips I took out testing hill climb power and top speed and just experiencing this bike overall. All right, here we go. Throttle only top speed run on the Road Warrior. Pedal a little bit to start. Now just hit the throttle. Climbing fast, already up over 30s. 31, 36 on the bike, 34 on the GPS, 35, 36. The bike is reading over 40. 37 GPS, 37 easily, and then hit this little bit of a downgrade, 38, the bike's at 42, 40 on the GPS, wow, 43 on the bike, 40 miles an hour holding steady on the GPS, that's insane. This is the fastest bike I have ever been on. This thing is crazy. All right, so we know this bike has tremendous top speed, but now you're asking, okay, how does it do on the hills? And the answer to that is it depends. It depends what mode you're in. In single wheel drive, this bike is very tame. It's slow off the line. There's not a lot of acceleration power. There's not a lot of hill climb power in single motor mode. It just doesn't have that download torque in the single wheel drive. You have to be in all wheel drive to get the power out of this bike. And I am going to go up here right now and demonstrate because we are at our hill climb. I'm going to do this first in single motor, and then we're going to change it to all-wheel drive and run it again. And for comparison, I use just a regular 750 watt e-bike as my benchmark, and those climb this hill in about 22 to 25 seconds. So single motor mode, let's give this a shot. All right. 3, 2, 1, go. See, very slow off the line. Gradually building speed. Showing 9 miles an hour. Certainly not going to be the fastest hill climber by any means in single motor. Gets a little steeper right here. I think the steepest spot of this hill is like maybe a 12% grade. And coming up to the end, which is right here, and time. So we made it. It made it in single motor. But like I said, you gotta be in dual motor to get the hill climb power out of this bike. So let's go down and run it back. All right, we pushed the motor for dual motor. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. So you get some wheel spin off the line and just, yeah, total breeze. So yes, it has hill climb power, but you have to be in all-wheel drive to get it. Look at this, it's crushing it. One of the quicker ones up the hill now. Lots of power in all-wheel drive. It just doesn't, in single motor, it doesn't have a whole lot of download torque in single motor. Dual motor, plenty of power. All right, the Havoc was able to climb this little side hill. Let's try it with the Road Warrior. This is deceptively steep and actually really bumpy. Let's see if it'll make it. Get a run. Yes. I mean, I just put my foot down at the top there and let the bike dig and climb like a little mountain goat. That's all-wheel drive for you, baby. Get you places other bikes won't go. All right, time for our small steep hill test. This little hill is like a 25% grade going up there. Most of the 750 bikes can't make it, they fail. This won't do it one wheel. I already know that. I can feel the strength, but should do it all-wheel drive pretty easily. Let's find out. Here we go. Yep, right up it. All right, now if you saw my first video on this bike, I talked a little bit about the torque sensor. It's kind of like a torque sensor and a cadence sensor all in one. So I'm in pedal assist 1 right now, and if I just turn the pedals and don't push on them at all, I get about 100 watts of power. And then when you start pushing, the torque sensor picks up the pressure and you get well over 1,000. The harder you push, it just keeps climbing. You can get up to like 1,500 watts if you push hard enough. Pedal assist 2, if you just turn the pedals, it's giving me 250 watts, 300 watts. Now if I push, again, you get full power. So it kind of gives you both. It's kind of like a cadence and a torque. Pedal assist 3, just turning the pedals gives me about 500 watts. Pedal assist 4, giving me about 780, 800, it gives me about 800 watts. And now pedal assist 5, the highest level, it's up at 15, 1600, it just gives you everything. You don't even have to push in pedal assist 5. In 5, as long as the pedals are turning, it's giving me 15, 1600 watts. 18, 50, wow, 19, holy cow, how does this go? 18 is holding them right at 18, 1900, wow. This is single wheel too. I mean, we're cruising, no effort, just turning the pedals, 30 miles an hour in single motor. The speed is where it's at on this bike. That's its standout feature. It just has crazy speed. I'm guessing that's due to the voltage of the battery, being 60 volt battery. I think that's where your speed comes from. We got a little bit of a water crossing. Oh. We are in all-wheel drive mode. Hear my front wheel just digging. So, let's see if we can climb that. Yeah, right up this hill, no problem, no pedaling. Just digging its way along. It's not as torquey as the Havoc bike. That bike was just crazy. Crazy torquey power out of that one. This one's got enough to, whew, man. It's got some good pickup in all-wheel drive. Holy cow. Yeah, you can go as fast as you want through here. No rear suspension though. You got the suspension seat post, but it's not quite the same as a full suspension. But here's the thing about all-wheel drive bikes that you got to watch. This one's not too bad because it's not crazy torquey, but when you're ever on loose gravel or loose terrain, like when you hit the throttle, I mean, that's the front wheel just doing a complete burnout. You can lose traction in the front real quick on these all-wheel drive bikes. Well, I think you'd be okay on this bike for some trail riding, maybe some light off-roading like this, nothing too crazy. I mean, the all-wheel drive helps so much with just digging yourself out of tough places. Having two motors pulling you out. I mean, wow, God, this thing just takes off like crazy. Let's try these little side hills here. No sweat there. This one's gonna be tougher here. Or not. Right up that, no problem. Yeah, if you want to go exploring, it'd be a great bike for that. Let's just buzz up to this neighborhood. Alright, we're going uphill. The screen's reading 1740 watts. It's just dominating out here. Road Warrior is a good name for this bike. Woo. It is. I gotta watch this curve, hang on. Okay, now we'll hit it. Blazing fast, 30s, mid-30s with ease. I'm not pushing hard at all. Look at this thing. How fast can we go? Woo. Dang. Holy cow. This bike lives on the top end. It comes alive at the high speed. Woo. We got a little short steep hill here. Let's crush this baby. Pedaling, but not hard at all. And it's going up 30 miles an hour. Gosh. It's still pulling. Just feel it pulling. It's at 1700 watts still. Alright, so hopefully those clips gave you an idea of what the ride experience and the power and performance is like on this Road Warrior bike. Things to consider about it, I mean, as always, it's big and tall, right? It's heavy, it's 92 pounds, and the minimum seat height with the suspension post is 36 3/4 inches, I think. And if you take that suspension post out, it's 33 3/4. So can you handle that large of a bike? Always consider that. Other things to know, it's powerful, but it's manageable power. That's how I would describe this bike. It's manageable power. I've been on numerous all-wheel drive bikes. This is probably the most tame and controllable, because a lot of times you just get a ton of front wheel spin and there's so much power in the front end, it's hard to control it sometimes at low speed or loose ground. This is one of the more manageable all-wheel drive bikes I've been on, so I wouldn't exactly be afraid of the power. You could always turn the front wheel off with the button and you're good to go, but I wouldn't really hesitate to put someone on this bike. It's not a scary bike, but it does have good power still. Now, is there anything I dislike about this bike? There's a couple minor things. The first one, you don't really think of a lot, but I'll put it on the screen with the wheelbases. But when I sit on this bike, and I usually put my foot with the mid part of my foot right here on the center of the pedal, so my toe hangs off the end, right? And when you make a sharp turn, your toes can hit this front fender. I guess the geometry is close enough where a couple times I did knock the front fender into my toes, and then it goes into the wheel and it's making noise. So there's that. I felt that on other bikes as well too. I think the Aventon bike is set up similar to that. So my toes hit the front fender sometimes. The battery with the pigtail hanging off, and you got to unplug that and undo the Velcro. It's kind of a process to remove the battery on this. I feel like they could come up with a cleaner way to do that. The battery already like seats down into the frame and locks into the frame. I feel like once you snap it in the bike, it should be good to go. I don't really feel like you should have to plug the pigtail with the XT90 connector in. Not on a bike that's almost $3,000 anyway. So kind of wish they would eliminate the pigtail. Maybe there's a purpose for that I don't know, but that's one thing about it. It's a kind of a cumbersome method to take the battery in and out, but I don't do it a whole lot, so not a big deal for me. And the only other thing I can say is the single wheel drive torque. I wish it just had a touch more torque in single wheel drive, but I mean, at the push of a button, you can get as much torque and power as you want on this bike. So again, kind of moot point or irrelevant, wouldn't keep me from buying the bike. So there you go. I hope this information was helpful to you. Of course, I'll link it below so you can find this exact bike. It's just a link. I don't get anything if you buy one. So choose your e-bike at your own discretion. And if you have questions, drop them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer. And if you found this helpful, you like e-bike information like this, do me a favor, consider hitting subscribe and coming back for more. I'll talk to y'all later. Thanks.